By now, in this month of content marketing, you know that creating content is something that you need to do, but it might be difficult to kind of figure out what to create, how to get people to take action, and how to move people through your buying process so that they can become donors. Well, I have the perfect episode for you today. Meet Kevin Kwan, the expert who can help you with just the content piece that you've been needing. He's been writing email funnels and sales pages for over 30 different influencers in the health and wellness and personal development space. And you know what? His techniques have increased their program sales between 150 to 300%. Kevin has had quite the experience in the industry. He has been the main copy and offers coach for two multi-million-dollar online coaching and consulting companies. His expertise has helped their clients craft their high-ticket offers and position their content to convert their clients. Nowadays, Kevin runs his own mentorship, mentoring coaches on how they can apply a marketing and sales system that uses the process of belief shifts instead of hard sales. And that's really what we all want to be doing, right? Really connecting with our audience, building a relationship with them so that they know that we are the nonprofit that is uniquely here to serve their needs and to help them give in the ways that are meaningful to them. So he's going to provide his framework for how you can think about the types of content you create and how you create the messages within that content. You're going to love this episode. So I'm not going to hold back. You're probably going to have to come back and listen to this episode a couple times just so you can get the various different pieces of his 5+ step process. But you're going to love it. I know you will. And it's going to really help you rethink the way that you're framing the content that you're creating. So before we get into it, this episode is brought to you by our quiz, Should You DIY Your Website? You can check out this free resource at thefirstclick.net/quiz and take the quiz to find out if it's time to revamp your website. And if it is, should you do it yourself or should you hire someone else? And regardless of where you end up, you'll get amazing resources to help you make the decision that's right for you based off of your budget, your ability to take care of your technology and understand the technology of your website, and your staff and time and all of the things. So again, thefirstclick.net/quiz. I hope you'll check it out. Let's get into the episode. You're listening to the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Bedell-Mulhern. Each month, we dive deep into a digital marketing or fundraising strategy that you can implement in your organization. Each week, you'll hear from guest experts, nonprofits, and myself on best practices, tips, and resources to help you raise more money online and reach your organizational goals. Hello, everyone. Please join me in welcoming Kevin Kwan to the podcast. Kevin, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm super honored to talk to all of your donors and organizations out there about this secret piece of information that's not going to be secret anymore.
Top secret. I love it. Well, we're talking content all month long, and you reached out to me. I just loved your approach in the way that you kind of take a look at content from a different way that I think is going to lend very well to the nonprofit space and the way that we think about what we do. But before we kind of jump into some of the goods here, why is content creation and content marketing something that has become a passion of yours?
Yeah, great question. I fell into this, and I used to be a really bad writer, and in fact, in high school and in college, I would be like the person that just gets by with the D minus.
Yep.
As when I opened up my own business as a gym. And, the internet was starting to become a thing. This was like 2009, like internet marketing. And I was like, cool, like how are these people building like these big things, like these big followings? There I was, new gym, wanted to grow it. So I started reading and researching, and you stumble across these things and they talk about this content thing. Okay, like what is content? I suck at writing. and and then I heard this copywriter say, well, it's like the great thing about writing online and using copy is that you don't need to be writing like an essay. You can write like how you talk. I'm like, great.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about voice and being yourself. So I started this thing and I started writing content, and just about like things about what I know and how it's helped people. And then suddenly I started getting some clients coming through who refer back to that blog post back then or what I wrote on Facebook. And then that clicked. I'm like, hey, wow, like I didn't have to be in front of that person. I wrote it once and I got two clients. So that's kind of where my journey went into getting more like that depth of how you can move people with words, and in this case, move people as becoming clients.
I think that's a beautiful story because I think so many times when it comes to marketing in the online space, we stop before we start because we think we have to be perfect before
Mhm.
we start. So I love that you've just kind of learned and grown and built, like I assume now, like layered in more and more skills as you've grown your business, but you just started by just getting started.
Yeah, and I think that's what holds a lot of people back. And it doesn't matter what industry. I coach a lot of health coaches and professionals,
Mm.
and they come from an academic space, so they have been ingrained where they're going to be marked. You know, you're not going to get that A. Your life's going to be over, whatever. But when you come in the online space, imperfection is what people are actually after because imperfection shows that you're human, and I can bond with you in some way. So if you are disorganized, that's okay because there's probably your avatar who's probably going to, let's say, donate or become a client can relate. Like, hey, like, they're running a business or a nonprofit and they're disorganized and look where they are. So that imperfection is like the things that give you an edge with your content
Mhm.
compared to the basic formulaic corporate kind of sounding feel. Nobody wants to come home from work and want to read like something super formal. They want comfort,
Right.
they want entertainment, and they want to relate.
Well, and we want to be able to absorb information quickly, right? Because we have a
Yeah.
short attention span. And so we want to make sure that we are grabbing people, but like making it easier for them to process what we're writing or what we're reading
Mhm.
quickly.
Absolutely. And especially with like Gen Z, I know you mentioned in your one of your shows, like, Gen Z are buyers and Gen Z are donators, except that they
Yeah.
consume things a little bit differently. And I think being able to write content, and actually video is content too, like just anything
Yeah.
you put out there that gives value, entertains a little bit, that's all content. But if we can learn how to write content, it actually trains us to be a little more articulate so that when we're
Mhm.
on video and all that, we've already processed that writing so that when we show up on video, we can just talk about that subject.
Yeah. Okay, but let's talk about this because you said, video is content and agreed. Like we need to kind of create content for where our audience is. But I feel like the
Yeah.
phrase comes out all the time. We need more content. Content is king. Let's create content. So, like, what are types of content and how might we want to think about which types of content we produce?
Yeah. So, first off, let's answer the content question. Content is king. It is, but however, context is the queen, and the queen wears the pants. So context is based off who we're talking to and the scenario. So everybody out there, and I think it's going to go more and more of this because in online business has just matured so much, is we're becoming more of a values decision making society, and we tend to side with the people and the organizations based off core values, right? And if we know our values and we understand the values of our audience, that's going to create the context of the content. So, what do I mean by that? So, for example, um, so I'm just going to start with some examples of my coaching clients.
Yeah.
So let's say emotional eating, right? So if you got emotional eating, the values that they have, right? So the values of, let's say self-love, compassion, empathy, somebody who understands, and I'm sure, some nonprofits can probably relate to that, is not going to resonate with weight loss for high performing women who's like, you guys have
Right.
type A, go after it. So if you don't have those values, and I'm trying to blanket a message to everybody because content is king with no context, then of course it's not going to hit. So all that answers. So that's the first thing I wanted to
No,
talk about.
that's such a good point.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And the next thing is like the content itself, like I think, sorry, going back to your question was like,
No, yeah, what
is it
types of content should you
yeah, what
create?
types of content? Yeah. So through my years of doing this since 2009 until now, the types of content that I teach people to create is actually based off belief shifts, because it's where it is people where they are and the decisions they make are based off their beliefs. And the beliefs drive how you think, and how you think drives thoughts and feelings. Thoughts and feelings drive your decisions, and then the actions to do something, not do anything, or do something different. So the types of content start all the way to the beliefs. If I believe in something, if you meet me where my beliefs are and my beliefs are wrong, you can transition that through your content, so words
Mhm.
or video. So let's go into the types. There's actually 5 types that we want to create. And this framework that I created allows organizations or coaches or anybody putting stuff out there to be very intentional about what they write, and so that you can start shifting those beliefs. And this framework allows you to create a narrative as well, to take somebody from, let's just say, believing in one thing to believing something completely different. Now, do you want me to go into that?
Yeah, let's jump right into it. Let's give it. Let's
Okay.
let's go.
All right, we're going to be a matter of fact, and we're going to jump right into it.
Yeah.
So save this podcast, and you're going to want to re-listen to some parts. Okay, so visualize a triangle. Okay, so you got this triangle, and at the bottom of the triangle, the width of each section, and let's say there's like 6 sections in there, and the bottom of the triangle or the width of the triangle represents the pool of customers or donors per se. Okay, so bottom, lots. Top, not very many. So think about also the height. Okay, so the height is the length of time it takes to turn somebody from a donor to get to the top. Where okay, I'll just put me on a subscription plan to take money out every month. So our goal for any organization, doesn't matter what you do, especially if you deal with the general population, is that we need to we need to move people from the bottom to the top with our content. That's what our content is doing. It's intentionally moving people from one belief to another belief to another belief to another belief.
Hmm.
So the different sections, or we can call them content types, however you want to say it, whatever is easier. We have certain beliefs. So at the bottom of the triangle, lots of potential donors, right? Takes the longest to move up to the top. So this section we call wants aware. So in this section here, this wants aware is more like, from the donor perspective, so for nonprofits, is like they want to do something that's bigger than themselves. They
Hmm.
want to, and if you maybe do a cause like a condition, they maybe they went to an experience and they want to not have anybody ever go through a condition alone, right? So you have to understand their wants. So how you create that content, whether you do a blog, whether you do a video, whether you do a social media post, Facebook, Instagram, your first 4 lines, if it's written, is the most key thing, and that dictates who you're talking to. And why I say the first 4 lines written? Well, because when you're on your phone, you only see the first 4 lines. And if it doesn't click, if they don't click on it, they're not going to read it. In a video, it's going to be about your first 10 to 20 seconds of whatever you say. So we want to meet them at where they want. And we want to end that piece of content on what are the symptoms, right? That are kind of like holding them back from doing the thing that they want, right? So in this case, let's say they had a condition, they don't want anybody to ever go through it again. Cool. I'm going to meet them there where they want. I'm going to write about that condition, and then I'm going to end it where, there are these um, symptoms that you have, and that's what we do. We help these people to alleviate, find help, alleviate the pain, and such and such. So now that moves
But you're
everybody. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, because you. So I was gonna say because you're starting with where they are,
Mhm.
making the whole thing about them. You're not even necessarily talking about your organization or business until till the very end, until they've read through what you've talked about and they understand that you understand
Yeah,
where they're at, right? So they've
yeah.
already then made a little bit of a connection with you.
Yeah. So sorry, that's a great finding that piece there. So somebody at the bottom there is you never ask for a donation, you never ask for a sale, because again, these bottom people, we're trying to make them more aware. So if we
Hmm.
keep sending out donation campaigns, for example, we keep blasting those out every month, all you're doing there is you're just capturing people more at the top of the triangle. It'll probably be great for the first couple of times, but we still
Mm.
start burning it out, burning out, burning it out, and then we need to dig at the bottom. So now that we move people from the wants aware, now we have the symptoms, what I call symptoms aware. That's the next level. These are these in the context of nonprofits, and we're going to use like symptoms of whoever the cause is for, right? It's their symptoms. So I don't know, let's take World Vision. World Vision does a great think of this in the commercials, like showing you how they live. And these are the symptoms. This is what it's like to not have food, instead of saying these people don't have food. And everybody has different beliefs about not having food. Is it literally not having food? I'm eating like mud pies, or is it not having food like going from gourmet steak to canned beef? Like, what does not having food mean? So this is why
Yeah.
we never assume, because we just don't know these beliefs. So in the symptoms aware, you want to meet whatever the symptoms of whoever you're doing this for. So let's just kind of go back to like hunger. So I'm going to go over all the symptoms of hunger. It could be the looks, right? It could be how they feel. It could be the feelings of the mother and how they feel for their kids. So that's how I'm going to start my sentences, my first four. And then I'm going to, or the first 10 to 20 seconds. Okay. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, I
There?
have a question about that for you though.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at the symptoms phase, is that
Mhm.
also where we are being hyper specific? Because you've mentioned like it's a like if we talk about food scarcity, right? Like that's a broad swath of things and
Mhm.
organizations tackle it differently. So at this phase, are we also kind of being hyper specific about this is how we are helping to solve the problem so that people can understand if we are the right choice for them? Or are we
Yes.
still trying to do kind of broad awareness for the cause overall and reaching a broader base?
No, the first one, specifics of the symptoms of whatever that condition or thing is, and then specifics of what you do as
Yeah.
well.
Okay.
Because we have to also remember, like, people aren't in the nonprofit organization. People don't know about things like the specifics about weight loss. So we have to be specific to them. So that was actually going to go in the frame of the post. So how I start this off, first four sentences, whatever the symptoms are of the person you're helping or the cause you're helping for. Then what you talk about, you transition to, because these people don't know how you're helping. So now you
Mm,
transition into, okay, how do you help with those symptoms? Well, we make sure we get this type of food and that type of food so that they can get all these nutrients and they don't eat too much or something. And then we end it off with, well, actually, that's how you end it off. Is like that is like your solution or your promise. So now this level is taken care of. So now I've brought everybody from the bottom. I'm moving to the
mhm.
top. And just know, for everybody listening, is that there are people in these spots already. You're just filling the pools more. Okay. So now these people now understand like what's kind of going on. Oh, it's like, oh, I never knew that they went through that. I never knew that they felt that. And like, oh, that's so great that you're helping with that. Now we have what we call promise aware. And the promise aware is exactly what it sounds. What's your promise? What are other promises of other organizations too? Like, what differentiates you, right?
Mhm.
And this is kind of where a lot of the values kind of driven things comes from. Like, some people might really value connection. So if you're boots on the ground and you hand deliver it versus somebody that might be just green energy. So and that could separate them just because that's the value of their people, right? And that could be that organization's value. So a promise aware, these people might have been exposed to multiple different nonprofits for, let's say, one issue. They've seen it, they've seen the ads and all that stuff. You want to basically meet them at how you do it. So how are you solving the problem of, let's just say, world
Mhm.
hunger or food scarcity? How are you solving the problem of AIDS or cancer or this research, right? Tell me how you're doing it. And also tell me, and you don't have to name organizations, but just give me a general sense of what's going on in the industry too, of where does the money usually go? Like charity water? I don't know if you've heard of
Mhm.
that.
Oh,
They
of
do.
course.
Yeah, they do a really good job of this and just breaking down where all the money goes. I know at some churches, they also tell you where the money goes and the breakdown of percentages, that transparency. And this is kind of where you do it because now let's think about the beliefs. We've already shifted the beliefs of people who want something but just don't know where to start. Now we have that connection of like these specific symptoms of the people or the cause. And now it's just like, I want to do something. But
Hmm.
what do you do before I hand over my money or e-transfer you?
Well, and I think this is where it becomes really specific in knowing who you are and what you do and trusting in that and trying not to be all things
Yeah,
to all people with your content, right? Like we have that fear and we talk about this a lot in the podcast because it's so important. And everybody says the same thing and that's why I love it so much. But like you have to really trust the lane that you're in
hmm,
and continue to just really push that because you can't be all things to all people. And in fact, to get money from donors that aren't in full alignment with your beliefs aren't in alignment, um, it just makes your work so much harder,
totally.
especially in the content creation space.
Yeah, totally. And just especially in the content creation space, it's a lot better to have like this focus on like, okay, these people have these values, right? I'm going to write, let's say, like dog rescue organizations. There's going to be certain values, and that's why there's so many organizations. Each of them operate under
Yeah.
differently based off a set of values.
Yep.
And when we reach the right people, not only you're going to get more donations per person, right? They're going to be talking about it to their friends a lot more because we're just so focused and we're
Hmm.
so aligned. It's almost like, yeah, like in the rule of thumb and copy is like talk to them as if like they are like your best friend. And if they feel that, well, they're going to tell everybody and they're going to give you more and they're going to stay as a longer, let's say
Yep.
donor.
So good.
So
Okay, what's next?
in the promise aware, so I'll finish that up. This is kind of where you want to talk about how you're different kind of in the middle and how you're doing things to help. Now, there's a slight difference in the next level. I call that a process aware, and this is more about how the process of how things are done in your organization and what makes you different right up top at the first four lines or the first 10 to 20 seconds. These people are going to be aware of, let's say, I like donating to animal rescue organizations. They're just wondering, who do I give my money to?
So you're
And
saying step 4 is the first time that you're leading with your organization
yes,
first. Okay.
yes, yes. These people are aware, and these people usually, when you send donation campaigns and marketing campaigns, um, these are the people that are going to give you money.
Respond. Yep.
So this is actually it's pretty simple. Start off with how you're different and how you're doing things. Be specific, okay? Could be just one thing, could be two things, no more than three things. Don't just tell the 10 different things that you're doing differently. Otherwise it becomes a book and people's attention spans aren't very good, especially the Gen Z era. So yeah, pretty simple. And how you end that post or how you end that content is um, how this difference in what you're doing helps them compared to the other organizations. And the rule of thumb when you're comparing, like don't name names, just be general about that, right? So it just doesn't sound
Hmm.
there's a thing psychologically, it doesn't sound like you're blaming it, but but you're also saying something that's true.
Hmm. Like we serve 20% more meals than other organizations in our county or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Or
That's a
like
perfect way to say it. Or better
even
than federal food programs, or better than that,
right.
right? So just
Yep.
generalize it. That's the rule of thumb. I say this all the time to my coaches. Nobody wants to throw anybody under the bus, for sure, but we also kind of have to tell what's out there because people just don't know. So we just
Right.
generalize it. Okay, last one. Or sorry, second last one. I know I said five, but I'll tell you why the last one I didn't include. So the next one is called identity aware. This is your fifth level. The identity aware is more about how this cause fits with the traits and vision of the donors right off the top. Okay, so you can have a line that we rescue We rescue stray dogs from reserves because they're tortured there or something, right? Because
Mhm.
maybe that's what you believe in. So you start off like that, and then throughout the post, what you're talking about is you're talking about how important these traits are, and then obviously how you help. Right. So now what you're doing here on all of these is that you're always meeting them at certain beliefs, certain values, how you're different, and you're just really hitting all of those different things in your
Mhm.
first 4 lines. Storytelling here is an excellent way of capturing this level because through story, the traits and the values are lived through somebody else. Okay. Um, Now,
I
the
love that.
last piece, I didn't say 6, I said 5, but 6 is really easy. Everybody knows how to do this. It's the
Hey, you know us
easiest to write.
marketers, we like to throw in those bonus tips.
Bonus, yes, bonus tip. But honestly, this is the easiest to write. This is called, I call it a coach aware in my program, but you can call it a cause aware. So they're aware of the cause, they're aware of you. I'm all in, I know your values. And really, this is just, hey, we're doing this drive, click here to donate. So our goal is to push everybody up as close to cause aware as possible hopefully before your next marketing campaign.
So here's the $100 million question, Kevin, right? That I'm sure you get as you work through this with all of your clients is, well, how much of each type am I supposed to be putting together? Like, how often should I be talking about each thing? Because with 6 steps, right, it can feel a little bit overwhelming. And I
Yeah.
think the 80-20 rule is a thing that comes out a lot, but kind of how do we think about, because this is a great framework to think about building a solid, sustainable business.
Mhm.
So, how do we think about which posts we do, how often, how do we kind of manage that?
Yeah, great question. So how you want to think about it is because we're leading like this thing of content needs intention and it needs to move people, right, in their beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you plan? How much is all actually based on when your next big offer campaign is, your next push. So let's say, I don't know, it's April 19th right now on the date of this podcast or this recording. Let's just say you're
Yep.
going to do a big push on May 3rd. Okay, let's just say that. So from there, okay, if I know I'm going to do a big call to action, asking for donations or an event, okay, whatever it is, then I'm actually going to start planning backwards from that.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to ask myself, okay, well, what do they need to know before they want to attend or donate? And I'm working down the line because remember, the buyers are at process aware and above. So that means before I say, hey, do you want to join this thing? Do you want to attend this event? They need to be minimum at promise aware. So from there, I just plug in how much of wants aware I need. So maybe, I don't know, this week I'll do 2 wants aware. Next week I'll do 3 symptoms aware. And then the week after I'll do a couple of promise aware. And then there's my marketing campaign or my offer. So
Right,
plan
because the
backwards.
bottom of the plan, and I love that the reverse engineering is golden, but you are then needing more time to lead up for the bottom of the triangle than the top,
Mhm.
right? Because the ones at the top are going to be a much easier sell. So
Exactly.
kind
Yep.
of backing it up and then just knowing that you'll probably always have more
Mhm.
of the bottom of the triangle
Always.
levels,
Yep.
the bottom 2, 3, right? Always.
Yeah. Just think about those people are like just not aware of the cause, but they want to give.
Yeah.
They feel like they feel like they want to do something, and
Okay.
you're
So I
always
have
going to have a
one.
lot of those.
Yeah, always. I have one last question for you before we kind of wrap this up. And that is a fear that people have that, well, if I'm saying a lot of stuff about what an organization is, those people that already know us are going to be like, oh, this is boring, or you're saying the same stuff over again, or we already know this. So, like, how do we kind of change our mindset around content creation and understanding that um, putting the same messages out there over and over again is not a bad thing,
Mhm.
and that hitting multiple people in multiple phases within our content is not a bad thing also. Like, we're not going to alienate those people that are at the top ready to buy.
Yeah, no, great question there. And I get this question a lot too. So, first off, the logical part is not 100% of the people will read 100% of your stuff.
None
Um,
of the 100% of anybody is going to read. No
yeah, you're
one.
always going to get a small percentage, and people skim as well. So, Like you could say, like for example, we run webinars, and we can say that like literally, we talk about the program multiple times. We say the same thing multiple times. When I say multiple times, it's about 3 to 5 times, and we still get the same question emailed to us.
Yeah.
So yeah, so most people are half listening, which means even more people are half reading. Cool. So that's the logical part. Yeah, we know that. Blah blah blah. The other thing is the when you kind of adopt a system of like writing to the beliefs rather than following like a pain or whatever, if they believe in that, it's going to catch their interest no matter what level they
Mhm.
are, if it interests them. And that's the great thing about content marketing first before you make offers. It's like a permission based marketing tool. I'm not putting a gun to your head to read this. If it captures your attention, you'll read it. If it doesn't, you'll keep scrolling by and wait for the next post or the next blog. Like in my group, I pretty much talk about content and sales all the time, but I talk about it in different beliefs based off who I'm targeting. And I don't have CTAs, but some people will comment, and sometimes they get a lot of likes. Sometimes they get no
Yeah.
likes. But
Right. Well, and that's the joy of content is also the testing and not always knowing what's going to hit with the right audience. Like you might write something. This has happened to me. I pushed out podcasts that I'm like,
Mhm.
this is the best thing I've ever recorded.
Oh.
Like people are going to go gangbusters over this, and it's crickets. And then stuff that
Mhm.
I'm like, this was good, but maybe not the best thing we've ever done, and it will like blow up. And I mean, there's a lot of factors to that, right? But you never really know until you start to test some of those different belief structures and the
Yeah.
way that you're talking about content, what your audience is really going to resonate with.
hmm Yeah, and the greatest thing now that we have, the online space and social media compared to 20 years ago when you had to do mail outs, you had to pay a buttload of money off for stamps and all that stuff.
Yep.
Like kind of what you're saying, Sammy, is that you get almost instant feedback and
Hmm.
direction. So like, huh, that's a clue. That's a clue to sharpen your message for free.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Okay. Well, this framework is amazing. Would you just reiterate, like, in real quickly, like the 5+ levels of,
And the bonus, yes.
yeah.
Marketing tactic for a framework. Okay, so at the bottom we got wants aware. These are the people that only know what they want. They're not sure about what's out there and the symptoms that some of the people that we're helping or animals that we're helping that are experiencing. So we got to meet them on what they want. Next one is what we call symptom aware. Symptom aware is the symptoms of whoever the cause is for. Okay, you're writing on those symptoms. Next one is promise aware. It's more about like what the promises that they've been exposed to of other nonprofit organizations. Process aware. That's how you do things differently, what you do, how you allocate money, whatever that is. It's just however you do things different to help. The next one is identity aware. Identity aware is how the cause fits with the traits, the visions, and the values of the donors, right up top. And then we got the bonus sixth one is the cause aware. And these people they know who you are, they know what it is. They just basically know like how much you want from me,
Yep.
what's going to
Those are the
help.
ones we want more of for sure. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, Kevin, this was amazing. And I just love your approach. And I think this mindset around how we write content is going to really resonate with nonprofits because that's our heads are in that space all the time. So now you've just given them a framework to really just take that to the next level. If people want to connect with you, they want to learn more about the work you do and kind of this framework that you've created, how do they do that?
Yeah, you can. I'm mostly active on Facebook, so you can follow me on Facebook. Just Kevin Kwan. I believe the link should be Kevin Kwan Mentor. You'll be able to see what I do because I have my profile picture and what I do, and I'm on the Instagram at the Kevin Kwan _.
And we'll have all of those linked up in the show notes as well at thefirstclick.net/204. So you can grab all those links for Kevin. Also, thank you so much for being here. This was awesome.
Oh, awesome! Thank you for having me.
So much goodness in that episode. Thank you so much for listening. Kevin gave us such a great breakdown of how to utilize the content and create content that's going to be meaningful and help us with our organizations. Again, I feel like this belief structure and this belief shift mentality is really going to help you think about how you're creating content and think about what you're putting in that content, whether it's a podcast or a social media post or a blog post. We don't just need to think about content as, okay, let's go create content. Let's think about it from the space of how is it really going to help us move our donors up the ladder and into being donors, to be at that top level where all we have to do is send them that message and they're like, yep, I'm in. What do you need? Again, you can grab the show notes at thefirstclick.net/204. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen so you don't miss out on a single episode. They come out on Tuesdays. And subscribe and leave us a review if you don't mind. We love to get your feedback and hear what you think of the guests and the show. You can also watch video versions of these episodes at thefirstclick.net/YouTube. So many places to check us out. We are here for you. Any questions, comments, thoughts, feedback on this episode, send them to us at hello@thefirstclick.net. I would love to respond to you. It is coming from me. And thank you so much for being here. We'll see you in the next one.